Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a recent statement given by a top level Taiwanese official where he has stated that Taiwan, it is ready to help India in reducing the trade deficit that India has with China. So let us try to understand first of all to what extent we are having a trade deficit with China and how Taiwan can help in this regard. Now in this context, first of all, the Deputy National Security Advisor of Taiwan, Mr. Xu Qian, he has stated recently in a press conference that Taiwan is ready to help India reduce the trade deficit. And the main way how it can be done is by reducing the import of electronic component that India currently relies on China. So what he has suggested that both countries, India and Taiwan, should sign FTA, that is a free trade agreement, and because of this free trade agreement, the tariff imposed upon the Taiwanese originated goods will be reduced in the Indian market and vice versa, and that will help in bolstering the economic engagement between both the nations, especially in the area of semiconductor, where Taiwan enjoys, or what you can say, Taiwan has its core competencies. Now, a trade deal will pave the way for greater investment in India by Taiwanese companies, obviously because of the lower rate of tariff in the high technology sector. And to understand this, if you take a look at the import that largely India has with China, which is largely the reason behind the widening trade deficit, we can see most of these imports are electronic goods, electronic component such as computer hardwares and peripheral amounting to almost 49%, then telecom instrument, industrial machinery for dairy, then you have drugs, accumulator and batteries, again AC refrigeration machinery, etc., and consumer electronics. So again, if you look at the first, second and last one, largely we can understand that the electronics sector is where India is heavily reliant upon China, footing for the higher import bill. And how high? Again, if you take a look at this particular graph, you can see that the trade value, bilateral trade value between India and China has continuously increased. At least we can talk about, for instance, fiscal year 2020, but at the same time we can see the trade deficit has continuously widened. Now, the term we talk about is a trade deficit. In simple terms, we can understand that India exports certain value of goods to the China and imports certain value of goods from China. So, when the export is lower than the value of import, there is a trade deficit, and higher the difference between the import and export, higher will be the trade deficit. So, in this context, if you look at this particular year, fiscal year 2024, the total trade deficit between India and China is about $85 billion, which seems to be continuously increasing. And especially if you compare with the fiscal year 20, that time the trade deficit was only $49 billion. So almost we can say almost 2-time jump that we are seeing here. That obviously is a concern for the government of India and the Indian economy as such. So obviously you can understand that the Taiwanese proposal of shifting the import of China to Taiwan, but at lower prices, will have obviously benefit for India. Now, the reason behind the widening deficit can also be understood from several factors. For example, in the last 4 years, as we have discussed, the trade deficit has ballooned from $49 billion almost to $85 billion. The reason behind this is because of higher demand from the Indian industry, as economy is seeing a growth at GDP is growing at a robust rate. So obviously, if the economy is robust, the demand is higher, and that is when the import will also surges ahead. Now, this also has to do with the change in the Chinese domestic landscape, because China, which is known as the production powerhouse, or we can say is the producing economy, manufacturing economy, it has created overcapacity in various sectors. And this cannot be consumed domestically. That means that China has no other option but to sell all these goods outside of China, and India has emerged as a major market for such goods. And many times these goods are being dumped in India even at a very, very low prices, and that also compromises with the what you can call as the competencies of competitiveness of the Indian domestic sector, manufacturing sector. Countries led by the US are imposing higher tariff, as you have discussed. That has been the general policy of US, especially after coming of Donald Trump, where he's imposed higher rate of tariffs on the Chinese goods. So Chinese export, which earlier used to go to United States, now they will not go to that extent because of the price increase, and that is why they are trying to find alternative markets, and again India has been captured there. Plus, China is exiting labor intensive sectors, going for high value products like automotive, which are then being pushed into different markets. So these are the major 4 regions we can highlight behind the burgeoning trade deficit that India and China enjoys today. Now, it is in this context we have to understand about the Taiwan's proposal. So let us take a look at the detailed proposal that the Deputy National Security Advisor has proposed. So first of all, he has said that why India-Taiwan partnership can be a fruitful partnership, because both countries have their own competencies which they can use to do what you can call as a matchmaking. For example, if you compare India and China, India and Taiwan, Taiwan is a very small island country with a very small population, but it had an advantage in the technology. If you talk about the manufacturing of semiconductor, manufacturing of electronic components, goods and all that, there Taiwan enjoys a much more greater extent of comfort than India. On the other hand, India is a very populous nation. The largest, we can say, population today in the world is in India. And there is also the most of population is in the youth age, or the age group of between 15 to 64, where you have a huge demographic dividend that can be reaped here. So the technology of Taiwan and India's demographic dividend, if they come together, if they join hand together, they can produce high-end technology component, maybe even in India itself. Because due to the low population, Taiwan faces the pressure of low availability of labor or low workforce. So a great potential seems to be rising up for the relations to expand, especially in the front of in the area of economic cooperation. Now, lowering of trade deficit can be a natural outcome of this, because the joint production of various electronic component, if it is being done in India with the help of Taiwan's technology, then it will help in decreasing the amount of import, especially from China, and obviously that will lower the import bill, lowering the overall trade deficit. Now, what can be the driving factor behind it? So, first of all, as we have discussed, that obviously due to the huge demographic dividend that India is currently in the position to reap, it enjoys cheap, skilled and abundant labor. Not only that, the products that are being manufactured in India then can be used and consumed in India itself, because of such a huge population. India itself is a huge market. So the availability of cheap labor and the availability of market are two major factors that can pave a path for the collaboration between India and Taiwan in the area of electronics and technology. On the other hand, talk about the leading Taiwanese companies. They also are changing their strategy. Earlier, they used to produce most of their goods from what you can call as bases in China, but recently, and also some bases of United States. But recently what we are seeing is that the dispute between Taiwan and China has become much more heated, where China under the premiership of Xi Jinping has clearly stated that it is going to merge Taiwan either by negotiation or by force, and Taiwan will become part of the mainland China itself. And to prove that, it has been continuously increasing and flexing its military might and military muscle around Taiwan. Plus, Washington is also having a trade dispute with Beijing. So all this external factor itself is leading to most of Taiwanese companies trying to relocate their production bases from China, and there India can emerge as a attractive hotspot if it offers the advantages that it enjoy in the form of the market and in the form of the labor. So that is the main logic behind what you can say is the response of the Taiwanese officials in increasing or enhancing bilateral cooperation in the economic sphere. Now, before going further into this particular topic, I want to draw your attention toward the regular batch, the weekday batch that we are going to start very soon on the April 17th, 2025. This batch will cater to the demand of all the aspirants and will be providing you the guidance right from the prelims examination all the way up to personality test. So this batch is going to accommodate a maximum number of students, that will be 40. After that, we'll close the admission. And also, if you try to understand about this, there will be a frequent classes conducted since the beginning, and the class timing will be from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. That will be session 1, and then after we'll have a break. After that, we'll have the second session between 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Now, very interestingly, apart from conducting classes on a regular basis, from very beginning we'll also be providing you with a test and mock test that will be attempting based on the output of the test, based on the outcome of the test, you'll be able to further streamline your preparation as such. Now, apart from conducting of regular classes and tests, we'll also be providing you hand-holding by personal mentorship program, so that you do not feel lost at any stage of the preparation. We'll be providing you with the optional classes as well, the main optionals that will help also in increasing your score in the mains examination. And then at the end, in the last stage, as you know that you have personality test in the or interpersonal interview, and that also is where you can expect support from us. So obviously the admission is open. Apart from April 17th, the next batch is going to be on the May 12th. People who lose chance to get admitted in the first, then they can get admitted into the 12th May batch as well. It will have a same kind of, what I can say, program features. And then for those students who are trying to prepare for the examination along with work, for them we also have weekend classes, and weekend classes will be held on Saturday and Sunday. The timing will be, it will be a kind of full day class between 10 a.m. in the morning till 5 p.m. So you'll have 2 days of full day class that will help you tremendously in boosting your preparation, and what I can call as sitting in the examination with the same content as the people who are enjoying, people who are preparing full time as such. So this batch is going to start with, on the April 19th, 2025. It will be a full 1 year batch, and everything will be similar as discussed before. Now, those of you who are writing prelims examination 2025 itself, for those of you, we have come up with the All India Prelims mock test, and you can easily check your progress with the mock test, and based on again the result that you get in the test, then you can understand that which are your strength, which subjects are your weakness, and based on then again you can then streamline your preparation. If you want to know more about the entire program, you can refer to our website, that is www.legacyIAS.com. Details of all the programs is given. Even if you have any doubt about it, you can easily call our number, that is 96069 00004 and 05, and you will be able to get all the inputs and information about various programs that we have. Now, coming back to this particular topic, we talk about Taiwan. Taiwan, as we know, is a small island country situated in the Pacific Ocean. It is currently, we can say, it is a self-ruled island, and it has maintained its status since there was a bifurcation between the China and China. So population is very less, only 23 million people. Now 70%, now this is where we have to understand, as I discussed in the beginning of the video, Taiwan has a core competency in the electronic sector. And this we can understand from the fact that 70% of the world's semiconductor and over 90% of the most advanced chips that are manufactured by the Taiwanese companies in Taiwan or in their China base. And the importance of this we can understand from the fact that these semiconductors and the chips are required in almost all electronic components. These can be smartphones, this can be car components, this can be data centers, fighter jets, as well as artificial intelligence technology, which is an emerging frontier in the technology sector. So that is where the significance of Taiwan can be underlined, and in this context we can understand that why India-Taiwan's relationship can be a fruitful one and beneficial one for both countries. Now, we talk about India and Taiwan. India is Taiwan's 17th largest trading partner. So obviously there is a lot of scope for improvement here. Now, under the Make in India program, many of the Taiwanese companies were invited to invest in India, and till now total $4 billion of investment we have seen by the Taiwanese companies in a spectrum of industries, that is footwear, machinery, automobile, petrochemical, all the way to information and communication technology. Now, very recently, migration and mobility agreement was also signed between two nations, which will help Indian workforce or Indian skilled workers to go and work easily in the Taiwan for Taiwanese companies. And if we try to understand that Taiwan, obviously it is a self-ruling country, but it is not recognized diplomatically by many of the countries. And that is why there is no formal diplomatic ties between India and Taiwan, because India also has adopted and formally has accepted one China policy. So no formal diplomatic ties, but the bilateral trade relationship have been on an upswing. And the most important development between the two countries came in year 1995 when India opened up India-Taipei Association in the Taipei. Taipei is the capital city of Taiwan, and the main objective of behind development of this association or setting of this association was to facilitate business, tourism and cultural exchanges between India and Taiwan. Now obviously any relation or strengthening of relation between India and Taiwan has to take into account the Chinese factor. Again, to understand China, we can say the mainland China or the People's Republic of China is a gigantic state, and you can understand that Taiwan is situated just few hundred kilometers off the coast in what you can call as between East China and South China Sea in the Pacific Ocean. So China considers Taiwan as its breakaway province. It believes that Taiwan officially and formally belongs to China, and it should be ruled and governed by the Chinese leadership themselves. And it insists it should be unified with the mainland, as we discussed, either by negotiation or by force. So obviously there is always a risk of a war breaking out between China and Taiwan. However, China has resisted against attacking Taiwan or provoking Taiwan directly because of the US agreement, where US has decided and US has concluded a pact that if Taiwan is attacked, US will intervene militarily and will what you can call as a protector. So Taiwan, however, on the other hand, sees itself as a completely distinct from China. So any change or bilateral strengthening of relationship, obviously, Indian diplomacy had taken into account the Chinese angle as well. So that is all about this particular video. I hope you got the idea behind behind what you can say the proposal of strengthening of India-Taiwan economic partnership and how free trade agreement can provide a boost in the electronic manufacturing inside India and can reduce its import dependency on China and ultimately bridging the trade deficit between India and China. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants as well as subscribe to our channel for more such helpful content. Thank you very much.